I'm doing my, I would say, first talk after I started building MoEngage. Let's see how this goes, right? So, hope all of you have settled in. And my name is Yashwanth. I'm the co-founder and CTO at MoEngage. First of all, I would like to say thanks to DEVCON team for giving me this opportunity to share some of my learnings with the community out here, right? And next, I would like to start with telling all of you what we do at MoEngage, so that you know where are these learnings coming from, right? So, MoEngage is a intelligent customer engagement platform. We help our customers send personalized messages to their end users, right? So that's what we do, very brief, on a very high level. One thing that we are excited about MoEngage tech is that at the scale at which we work with, right? Not many people are aware of it, but we track around 1.2 billion monthly active users. Just to keep things into perspective, Facebook has about 3 billion monthly active users, right? I'm not saying we are doing everything they're doing, but the sheer complexity of building scalable systems is a different beast altogether, right? When we started MoEngage back in 2014, I did not anticipate the learning curve that I would be going through, right? It has been a massive learning in terms of how do you build technology, and also how do you build the teams that is required to scale a SaaS business, right? And I'm happy to share some of those important learnings with all of you here. I chose to speak here only because of one reason, because I want to make sure that at least if some of you can learn from these learnings and avoid making those mistakes in your SaaS journey, that would be very, I would say, something that would be contributing to the community, right? That's the only motivation for me to come and speak here. So I was thinking, how do I structure this entire presentation? And when I thought about it, usually I speak about this a lot in my company, to my team members also. When I think about engineering or a tech, it has three main areas in which we can contribute to the business directly. So one is reliability. So reliability for me, it's more about, is your product working as expected or not, right? And the second thing is about the speed. Are we able to build products at the pace that which the business needs, right? Because if you're not able to build at the pace, then probably competition might overtake you, right? Or customer might get dissatisfied, right? And the third and important thing is cost, right? So where we can't ignore. So some of you who are experienced might know why your CFO is reaching out to you and asking you to do something, right? So, and cost for me is more about how much dollars are we spending to serve our customers, right? I thought these are the three main broader areas I'll be taking my presentation on. And at MoEngage, this is what we do. So let's say you come to a, let's say, stage where what to prioritize, right? Then for me, it's always reliability, and then it's the speed, and then cost. Reliability, speed, and cost. So there is always a balance between, again, don't take this by a rule of thumb. At least I don't take it seriously as well. But speed and cost always is a balance, right? But generally, you try to favor speed over cost, because if dollars are lost a bit, you can probably get it back by doing the magic. But if time is lost, probably not get it. And most importantly, reliability part, right? So once your customer feels like, okay, I can't trust this product anymore, or I can't trust this company anymore, there is no going back, right? That's why I rate reliability always at the topmost, right? And I'm going to start sharing my learnings in that order: reliability, speed, and cost. So what is reliability, right? So reliability is, for me, again, I think in a way that this I got it my CEO, my other co-founder, right? Is your product working as expected or not, right? So anyone in the audience can tell me right now, if you are willing to share, like how do you even measure reliability? How do you know if your product is working as expected? Anyone? Okay, makes sense. That's, oh yeah, definitely there are multiple ways to understand this metric. Anything else from anyone? Customer feedback is one thing. Anything else? Yes, high availability, zero outages, good. Anything else? Anyone? Use product on your own. Yeah, that tells you whether it is working as expected or not. So broadly, this is what it entails about, right? The term is SLAs, about service level agreements. That is what generally the industry calls it as. There are SLIs, SLOs. If you want to go more technical, you can go and read about it, read about that. But this talk is, I was just wanted to keep it generic, so I'm going to speak in a high level view itself. So SLAs, we spoke about its service level agreements, and it's, for me, when I look at SLAs, right, so it's a way that your product should work in an acceptable way so that customer is also happy, right? So there are restrictions for any company, like, okay, you can't get the moon and give to the customer, right? So there are some limitations to us in which how much we can operate. And SLAs is like an agreement between you and the customer, which tells the customer that this is what I can expect from the company, right? And this is a sample example that I can relate. Like usually I thought I should talk about restaurant. In the restaurant you can see the disclaimer that give us 20 minutes to serve your order. But I took this from online grocery delivery app, where it talks about if you are within, like let's say 1 to 2 kilometer range, I'll deliver within 10 minutes to your house. Or if it's between, let's say 5 to 7 kilometer range, I'll give it with you to you in 30 minutes. This is what real life example looks like. But for us devs or engineers, how does this look like? So this is what I try to perceive. I try to compartmentalize everything that I try to do. And engineering workloads are more for me in terms of, I would say, synchronous workloads and asynchronous workloads. And mainly in synchronous workloads, you try to look at APIs as an example. For APIs, again, you try to define your SLAs as one of you quoted, like you want to be 100% available, but it's not possible. There would be outages. If you put SLA as 100% available and one fine day you're not able to meet it, customer will come and shout at you, right? So better to have that leverage. And from the latency perspective, right, APIs, from the latency perspective, you're going to have to give that confidence to the customer, saying that I'm going to give my response time within, let's say, 100 milliseconds or lesser, 99.9% of the time. It should always define that whether it's going to be average or 3 nines or 4 nines. That's going to be critical. And from the async jobs, right? So it's more about, like, you have something which we don't know when it's going to complete. So for that kind of workloads, I would say, like, the typical SLA could be that I'll give the campaign exports to you within 5 minutes, right? Or I'll finish this job for you, like, within 30 minutes for 99% of the time, right? This is how SLAs look like in the engineering world. Okay, now that we have seen how the SLAs are like, what do we do with these SLAs? Right now we know, okay, I want to, now I know what SLA means. I want to do something about it. I want to start with an incident here. So where the topic was more about mistakes and learning. So I'll talk about the mistake that we made here, right? So during the early years, we send campaigns, we send push notifications on behalf of the internet companies, right? So, and that's very important, push notifications, SMS, emails. And if they don't go out, there is a loss in the marketing department, right? So one fine day, customer tells us that my campaigns are not going out. Then everyone is in Engage woke up and said that what is going on? And later we realized that there's a while we are sending a campaign, we also show the numbers to our customers, saying that how many people have received that campaign and how many people have clicked on that campaign. We realized later that the stats job was lagging, where the stats we are not able to calculate. There was some lag in it, and customers were shouting by then to us, saying that campaigns are not going. Now we are losing money. Moengage is responsible for it. So the incident impact was a bit lesser because the stats was only lagging, but we were actually able to send the notifications. But the main point is, as a CTO, it was an embarrassing moment to me. Why it was embarrassing is that customer had to tell me that something is wrong in our systems, right? This is the first embarrassing moment I would say I want all of us to avoid in terms of getting to know the issues first before even customer talks about it, right? So how do we go towards that? Because if you get to know the issues first, you can probably fix it faster, right? So there is very little business impact, right? So first thing we did was, okay, we spoke to business teams and said, okay, for this service, what should be our SLA, right? Okay, then we said, okay, we'll not do anything about it. And then later, it's not just about writing, right? So now you need to take an action on it. So next we started measuring. Now we started educating our people that, okay, what should you do with your SLAs, right? So now is your API working properly or not? So we started putting this metric into CloudWatch. And then afterwards, one thing I've realized is until you question on what is going to happen with your performance, it's not going to improve, right? So that's where the third section is more about auditing your SLAs. Is something performing more than expected? Then probably you can reduce the cost and keep the SLAs into check. But if it's something is not working as expected according to business, then probably we need to invest more into that and then bring up to the SLAs, right? So then now that we know what to do about SLAs, coming to the main point of how do we get to know before the customer even knows about this, right? When an incident happens, right? So again, for the synchronous and asynchronous workloads, I think APIs is straightforward, where the errors, and then if you are breaching some latency, I think you should definitely have alerts on these things, right? I think most of our, I'm going to cover this in speed also, but all of us are dependent upon APIs. So for one thing which is very unique, and I found it very late, is that jobs. How do you measure the SLAs in jobs? One mistake I did for like about 5 to 6 years is that we started talking about, okay, my job is lacking by 1,000 messages, 10 million messages. That means nothing to the customer, right? Or for if you tell this to the support member or a business member, they will feel like, what is happening? Why are you even telling me these messages? Because customer is talking about how much time does it take for me to get my work done, right? So I think best way to do that is to talk more about in terms of seconds, minutes, hours, whatever it is, in terms of try to put it in terms of time variables rather than I would say number of messages stuck in the queue or something like that, right? We all use queues, Kafka, multiple things, right? So all these systems are prone to lagging, and then we need to build a systemized approach to understand if your job is working in the right way or not, right? So but this still doesn't end here. You have thousands of APIs in your systems. Now you, on a new fine day, you build one more API, and then you launch it to production, and then same thing comes. Customer reports. Now you dissect your system, what happened, and the RCA comes out to be that we don't have alerts on this API. So what do we do now? So how do you cover that your entire infrastructure is actually having proper alerts for all the customer use cases, right? That's a very big problem, and it's very, I mean, there are some structures about code approach where you are launching a new infrastructure, you can actually build your alerts into it, but it's very hard to do that as a practically unless you have a very disciplined approach. What we recently found working for us was something we call as black box monitoring. What we do with black box monitoring is we try to identify the top, I would say 90% of the use cases that our customers use, and try to simulate them in production, in the production environment very frequently, so that if something breaks and if any of these alerts are not able to catch, there is something foolproof which is starting from the customer perspective, and your service could be operating with 10-20 APIs in between or 2-3 jobs in between. Sometimes it's very hard to audit them and also cover them. And for us, we have 7 data centers, and one data center has it, one data center doesn't have it. Then how do we solve that problem, right? Again, coding approach is there, but we felt at peace when we started working on black box monitoring, where we said that, okay, I have to cover this from a use case perspective, right? I think that's the main thing I want to cover about the SLAs. And from the reliability top area, the next thing is security, right? Being all of us are here for SaaS, you might have encountered RFP questionnaire that we want to fill, right? And the first question I remember, at least that came to me, was simple thing only, like give me your VAPT report, right? In terms of how secure is your UI or dashboard, right? So that is where my first learning was. And then the second thing that comes to in the RFP question is, how secure is your customer data? Are you encrypting the data at rest, or are you encrypting the data in transit also? That is a recent kind of question that I'm getting. Usually it used to be, are you encrypting the data at rest? Now people are asking, as we go more enterprise, people started to ask questions like, okay, within your network, is it encrypted or not, right? So I think couple of learnings here. It's a very short slide, and I felt like security is very important part of our engineering organization. I should not be ignoring this. That's why I put it here. OWASP top 10. I think if you're able to cover this and your APIs are compatible with this guidelines, I think most likely your VAPT report is coming out clean if you're able to handle this. And I've seen plenty of developers. We believe that we have very good engineers, and trust me, like some of them don't even know what to do with the APIs, how secure they need to build. They understand algorithms. The computer science today engineers, like at least it was told to me during my colleges also, like this algorithm does sorting, this algorithm does graph and all those things, right? But no one told us the security, that this is the reality of the SaaS business. At least probably in B2C no one questions about this, but in B2B every day you're going to get this question. As we grow, this is the constant question you're going to get. And the second thing is more about, I would say, try to encrypt as sensitive information as early in your, I would say, while building your product itself. Because if you find something sensitive and tomorrow if you want to encrypt it, it's going to take a whole rewiring of your software to be done. It's going to be very costly, and sometimes you might give up that it's not worth doing encryption at this point, right? But if you're doing encryption for sensitive information at the top layer, one hack I found is, because of that, automatically within your network also the data is flowing encrypted way, at least for the sensitive information, right? You can be some part of honesty, you can do it while you are actually talking to your RFP, right? So this is the main areas I want to cover in the reliability part. And the second major area I thought about, like engineering contributing to business, is about the speed. How fast are we able to build our products so that we are able to catch up to the competition, and at the same time customers are able to satisfy as well. One thing I've seen is, in a SaaS, customers always keep telling you what they need. And this is the good point. Before I worked on a startup where I didn't know what to do. Trust me, if your customers are telling you what you need to do, that's a very good thing to do, or a very good thing to have actually. That gives you a roadmap, at least, like what is market telling you and what do the customers want. You don't have to think about it, you just have to go and build it, right? Now one thing for speed is that this is what I try to, I don't know who wrote this, I couldn't find the writer for this, but I try to look at in a way where if you are able to prepare better, probably your speed will also be better. It's like foundation. We all know cricket, right? 20 overs, 120 for no loss or 1 wicket, and afterwards you accelerate. That's how at least India plays. England and Australia probably are playing in a different ball game altogether, but India plays like this even today, right? So my approach is towards is the same thing, where you sweat more in I would say practice rather than bleeding in the war, right? Because again, there is nothing embarrassing for engineering leader when your product goes live and there are a lot of bugs. That's one thing. And second thing is, after 6 months, once the scale hits you, your product is no longer working, right? Or you are throwing costs to solve your problems, right? There is nothing embarrassing than this. And why I'm counting on this point is, now when you hit that situation, you're not prepared, you have to redo all your software, right? That's again the velocity loss that you're going to have. So my mantra has always been, try to prepare so that you don't have to face shocks in the production, and I had multiple scars, and that is why this has been my favorite thing here. Yeah, so I try to include some of my learnings here about how do we prepare for this. The next question is, okay, I want to prepare, how do I prepare for this now, right? So we come up with a template. So initially I used to, first time I realized this, I said, okay, in a A4 sheet paper, I printed out some of the principles that every team member should take care, and then I attached this A4 sheet paper on all the engineers' monitors. And today this A4 sheet paper has become 7 A4 sheets, and then everyone in MoEngage has to go through all these guidelines that we have before they build any product, so that they know they're at least prepared. So I'm not expecting 100%. I'm not saying that, okay, when we go into production we'll not have any issues. We do have bugs. Sometimes our solutions also break, we have to rewire, but it gives you that, I would say, insurance that someone is going through a process. Like Dhoni says, take care of your process, results will come. Big fan of it. So this is what my process is, right? You can download the PDF in cdn.moengage.com/td.pdf technical document.pdf. This has, I would say, not exhaustive, but some part of learnings where we try to do it in a structured way, how we build our applications, right? So that the mistakes that we make when we go into production are very less. It covers about how to handle data, how to handle costs, how to handle observability, right? It also tells you about who to take approvals from. It also tells you about, I would say, when to get the security review from. Again, this is our style of operation. If you like it, please adopt it. Otherwise, you can create your own templates. But what I believe is everyone should have their own templates, right? And for me, like I said, I think reworking on the product is the most costliest thing. It's a mistake for me where one of our products, in 5 years, we have to rebuild it 3 times. And I couldn't show my face to our business counterparts saying that, why are you asking us to build the same thing again and again? Because at that point of time, I didn't have enough knowledge to build it properly. We didn't also have the enough skill set in the team to do it. But later point, I realized that it's okay to spend that 1 month extra to ace this, because this is going to be fundamental for your product. And then later, you don't have to worry about it, right? If you have to prepare for 3 things in production, I think, 3 things in production, these are the 3 things I would recommend if you think the tech doc template is too much. But I think these are the main 3 things you should handle before your product is going to production, at least your software is going to production. Make sure that you don't have single point of failures. This you can easily go through by writing or drawing your HLD. And then second thing is horizontal scaling. Make sure that you are able to scale your, I would say, solution horizontally. You don't have to, vertical scaling is costlier. That's a different story. But if you are able to build your systems horizontally scaling, more or less you're started. And costs, make sure that you don't have to throw costs tomorrow at solving the problem, right? I think these are the 3 main things that you need to prepare at least when you go into production. The next thing that I have as a broader area in speed category is that you might have heard about data democratization, a lot of you, but I'm calling this as service democratization, where who can use your services? Are your services able to be used by everyone? So I think one thing that I've seen common in the SaaS is like customers want to use your APIs directly, or partners want to use your APIs so that they can build on your APIs, marketplaces, multiple things. As your business grows, I think these are must, where you have to be prepared for your service democratization. And what I'd like to visualize is these are maps for your software, where if you want to go from point A to point B in this world, without Google Maps, probably we can't imagine going there. This is what I feel like about service democratization. If team A wants to use service of team B, should they have something like maps where the APIs are properly documented, or they should go and talk to your developer saying that, okay, tell me how this service works? And the worst thing that can happen is, this is what the mistake we made. Imagine service teams B service being like this, right? So SaaS, we all have dashboard, the user, and we have a service API. So if your authentication and rate limiting are tightly coupled with your service APIs, can your internal teams use it? Can your customers directly use it? Can your partners directly use it? I would say no, because they have their own way of contacting the service APIs, and this is how I think it should be. I don't know if this is the right way, but this is something, this has been by learning so far, where service API should be clean and it should not worry about who is going to use it, right? What happens with this is, you have same API being used by dashboard teams, internal teams, and you have partners teams. Recently, I've been working with the support team a lot, and one thing I've realized is probably that is the least area where we are focusing on SaaS, right? And what I did is I brought in a couple of engineers and I asked them to build solutions for our existing products. They said, Yashwanth, I'm not able to build solutions because the APIs are tightly coupled with the dashboard. And I can't, like, let's say they have to do some extra logic by using that service API, they're not able to do it, right? So if you have this kind of approach where a service API is not connected to anything, then you can probably use that for your internal teams and partners. And definitely in a SaaS journey, customer is going to ask you that I want to use your API directly, right? It's going to happen. You have to prepare for it. Otherwise, that's the one lesson I want all of you to take. If you're not aware of it, they will ask you that they want to use the APIs directly. So I think better to be prepared for this architecture, where your service APIs are catered anyone across. And that is what I call it as service democratization. I think this is the second learning I have. If you have this later, you don't have to spend some time rewiring your software. And the more APIs you have, having this kind of architecture, I think your velocity will be tremendous later. So last but not, it's again last but also important thing is the cost, right? One fine day, very early days of MoEngage, my CFO comes to me and tells me that, Yashwanth, you're spending too much dollars on your infrastructure. So I asked him, I don't know this, but how are you saying this, right? So this is what came out of this meeting as a knowledge graph for me, right? All of us are worried about, business is more about profits and loss for me. And this is what SaaS benchmarks are. Best SaaS companies in the, I would say, industry are having 80% margins. If you want to, just one more sentence on this, like if customer is giving you $100, you should probably spend not more than $20 on your infra cost and plus support cost, right? So generally it's support cost, infra cost, people assume that, but it's also support cost, right? So $80 you keep in your pocket. And how do you do this? So later after that, I realized that, okay, I was able to spend about $5K. At that point of time, it was very small, but it was effective at that point. And with that $5K, we could have brought in a new team member. I could have used the same budget for marketing needs. So every penny saved is actually a very good thing that you can do to your business. So there is a very strict regime in MoEngage where what we do is we try to follow a tagging approach where for every infra that we have in production, we have 3 tiers of tagging. One is business, service, and sub-service, right? Which tells you that infra belongs to which product, and then if there is a service within that product, which service it is, and there is a sub-service in it. With these 3 tags, we are able to completely tag our infrastructure and say that this product is costing you $300, right? I think that's the first step. I think most of you might have done by this now, but that is something I thought I should start with. And the second thing is very interesting to me. It got to me very late, but it has been very effective. How do you know customer A is using a product more or customer B is using a product more? At least for us, the product usage is not directly proportional to the cost. Like AWS is probably the best example where you use your certain thing and you directly paying that many dollars. But not every SaaS business can do it, right? So there are some complex pricing, I would say, sales comes up with different of pricing, I would say, plans where it became very hard for us, and this was must do for us, where we had to understand. When CFO came to me and asked, like, why are you cost increasing? I said, customers are using more. Then he said, which customers are using more? I didn't have an answer. So the next thing we built was how to know which customer is using more, right? And with that, a beautiful thing came out. We realized that some customers are using more, but they are paying less. Some customers are paying, I would say, good, but they're using less. I didn't want to touch them, but our sales team talked to the people in the first category and said that, okay, boss, we need to now talk about the pricing, and then we need to start working on it, right? And the second beautiful thing that came out was the pricing book. For us, like we didn't have, like there was a theoretical number that for million MAUs you have to pay this, but with this, we clearly told our sales teams that if you are selling, let's say 1 million push notifications, you have to sell it at this price. Otherwise, there will not be able to get 80% margins, right? And the third thing is most about preparation, where you prepare so that costs are not growing linearly with respect to product as the products keep increasing. We have 7 data centers, and the first data center which has most of the volume is the most economic data center that we have. That means if you throw more usage into a software, probably it will get more economic because some people are using more, some people are using less. The unit economics will come into picture, right? Now, I just want to recap about 3 important things if anyone wants to take away something from this meeting. First thing is that let's not get embarrassed ourselves in front of the customers. That means we have to be prepared with SLAs, alerts, and all those things. Second thing is that let's not be embarrassed in terms of in front of business leaders. That means we have to prepare. We don't have to rework our software. We are having enough velocity. And the third thing is API first approach. The way that I've showed you, I think that works, where you're able to make sure that your APIs are being used by anyone who wants to use them, right? What is harm in using the APIs? You put limits, then they will use according to those needs, right? So these are the main 3 key takeaways I just want to share from my 10 years learning of experience. I think TechDoc is going to be more helpful for people who don't have a template as such so far. That's all from myself today, and thank you once again for DEVCON team for giving me this opportunity, and thanks for everyone here for listening to me as well. Now I think I can, if anyone has any questions, I can take them right now.
The security you mentioned about some learning. So are you thinking, are you used any penetration testing or SOC 2 kind of accreditation in your?
Yes, yes. So I think certifications came very late into MoEngage, but certifications are part and parcel of any SaaS company, I would say. For pen testing, visually there is a quarterly internal pen testing that happens. We have AppSec developers who do the pen testing every quarter, and then every year annually we also have a third-party vendor come in and do the audit as well. And I think head of security is going to be, if you can afford, any company can afford, is going to play a very crucial role. They look at IT, they look at AppSec, they look at SecOps, they look at InfoSec, multiple things, privacy as well. And getting that person in early will be very crucial, right, if you are having long-term growth. And I think that person can guide you through certifications, right? So that's my answer to that.
Hey, hi. Yeah, thanks for a wonderful session.
Yes.
My name is Jones.
Yes.
So here we talked mostly about the services, API.
Yes.
In the modern SaaS or web tech, most of the data can be processed in the front end itself nowadays. So is there any lessons you want to share that how you made your front end more reliable and make it up to the speed, and any embarrassing moment from the front end you faced?
Yeah, definitely very good point. I did not cover it, but front end is actually the face of your product, right? Where if it's not loading properly, then customer will have first impression. Whatever you're doing magic in a backend doesn't matter, right? If your front end takes throwing errors, page doesn't load, or your page takes time to load, or it's throwing errors, then I would say philosophy, this is my learning, or the way that I look at front end is that it has to be good, it has to be customer friendly, but I would not try to have so much logic on front end, where I think your API should be doing the heavy lifting, because today I think the world with the coming of, I would say, apps and I would say mobile technology, you have to build the same API which can work in, I would say, iOS, Android, and also in web, right? So from that perspective, I want the front end to be lighter and designed in a way that backend does all the heavy lifting, and front end is more worrying about the UX, page load times, and make sure that data is not being stored, and data being stored in the very good way in the front end, right? So I think those are the best practices. I think again, measuring, we did that exercise where we installed, I would say, LogRocket was one of the tools that we used to understand, and Sentry.io is another tool that we used to analyze what are the page load times. And then we said that, okay, 4 seconds, probably the average loading time, or P99 loading time is too much, we had to reduce it. So once we got that insights, we started working on it and we reduced it. So I think it's more about, definitely it's very important. I will not say it's not important, more important, and we have to invest in it, and we have to pay attention to it, and then bring it down to, like I said, acceptable SLAs, right? 1 second SaaS is okay. Probably in B2C you need more good SLAs, even faster response times. SaaS, I think people front end side people are a little bit more patient, right? That's what I can tell.
Hey Yashwanth, this is Ankit here, this side.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you presented about computing cost per customer. Okay. So if running a SaaS business, everyone is on a shared infra or a shared environment. Okay. So what is your framework to compute maybe low ticket customers for high ticket? Yeah. Thank you.
So I have a blog about it as well, but I'll tell you what we did. So in terms of, let's say one infra is processing, I'll talk in terms of language, I know more. So let's say I'm sending 1,000 push notifications from OEngage for different customers. One customer is sending 500 notifications, one customer is sending 200 notifications, one customer is sending 100, and others are small people, right? So, or small usage, I'll not call that word. So now, if you're spending $100 for that infra, and if you're able to, from that infra, you can, this is what our architects have done, right? They understood that from which machine, what are the customer usage metrics that are coming. We say that from this machine, we have tagging earlier, where for each machine we say that this is the business, this is the sub-service, and this is the service. And from that we get to know which machine is costing us how much. And from that machine, we are using the tags and then adding extra metrics saying that customer A 500, customer B 300, right? Now putting the data together, you can understand like $100, $50 is for customer A, right? $30 or $20 is for the other customer. So that is how we were able to do it even with the shared infrastructure. Yes. So it's a custom build. There is no software we use. So it's a custom build that we have used.
Hey, Yashwanth, thank you.
Yes.
So you were talking about testing and you talked about black box testing.
Yes.
So are you using something like Litmus with like for the chaos engineering part where you schedule and then you run?
So we use
Harness, yeah.
So our approach has been APIs. So we use Postman today to simulate that in a frequency and then try to do it. The software that you said, I haven't heard it, so we are not using it.
The Harness, the open source company actually, but anyway, yeah.
Harness we use for different purpose.
Yeah.
We do use security team, and for deployments, for pipelines, we use Harness, but not for this use case. This use case is more about understanding the customer use case. Let's say you want to trigger an export. We fire an API saying that, okay, I want to get an export, and then when that export lands in some other place, we also check through an API whether that has landed or not. Then we know that it's all through APIs, nothing magic there. It's about orchestrating these APIs, understanding those use cases, and then putting them on a frequency in production. Then you'll have your own black box monitoring.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
So Yashwanth, you said something about the mistakes to milestones, correct? And you have also made a very clear presentation about that we should try to avoid mistakes, but the life, as we know, is a chicken and egg problem, and we want to eat omelets. And what's your takeaway on that? Because right now I am in a startup, let's say, or not a startup, I'm starting up. I'm writing features for the customers, and I really wouldn't take care of all these things. But when I grow big at a certain stage, then these things start to kick in, and then I am looking into the rear view, and it's all hell goes loose.
I think RCA, not RCA. Couple of things, right? One is the technical document, as I said. If your engineers are able to follow it and then implement it, you'll have better preparation for it. Second thing that we have at Moing is the RCA culture, where we try to do a blameless postmortem. We try to learn from our mistakes. There are long-term items that comes out of RCA, but I think every company should have that culture where, at least I'll grown personally when I was working on the RCS. When some incident happened, that is where I came to know, okay, this Redis is not the right way to configure it, or this database is not right for this use case, right? So I think mistakes are parts and parcel. So even every company makes it. I think Amazon does it, Google does it, everyone has it. But I think what you're learning from those mistakes, and then are you trying to avoid them in the future? I think first is not a mistake. First is probably okay. Second time when you're making, that's a mistake, right? Because you're not paying attention what customer needs and what they're pissed off, and trying to avoid that, right?
I think that's sums the answer for me
yeah.
as well, and at least in my head as well. First time, it doesn't matter, but make sure that it doesn't happen the second time.
Yes, yes.
Also, there is one interesting thing which trigged for me is, assume you would be serving millions or whatever, thousands of requests per second to your API endpoints, and at times there are customers who have high QPS and there are customers who have low QPS, and then you have also implemented something called as rate limiting.
Yes.
Now, having multiple shards working, and then at the same time you have to keep a sync between all the shards that they are not breaching threshold.
Yes.
Now the whole synopsis here is because synchronization is bad. It's hell lot of worse problems in SaaS as well as in API. How do you tackle or avoid them, or what is the mechanism that you played with?
So for us, we are a multi-tenant architecture where multiple customers can go into a single database, or multiple customers can go into a single API. I remember back in 2014 and 15, one of our biggest customers at that point of time was Snapdeal. So they used to spend, at that point of time, it was a huge scale to us. When they send push notifications, all India wakes up, and at that point only we used to get spikes, and I can't procure infrastructure for it, right? I thought I'll be able to never solve this problem, but later as we got more customers, the smoothness came into that API usage, where I didn't have to personally pay attention to solve that problem. But if you have more customers coming in, that usage will flatten out. You don't have to worry about it. Your ops will remain more or less constant. There was this, our architect was showing me some graph. Initially, if you look at single pattern of S3 usage, it used to be spiky like this. But if you put all S3 customers and you see the S3 usage, it's mostly like this. It won't even fluctuate, right? So that gives you better way to prepare, and then you don't have to worry about this as a problem, I think.
Hi, Yashwanth. Yeah. Hi. So great session, Yashwanth, and congratulations for winning the deal from SoundCloud as well. So
thank you.
I have this one basic question. Can you please share your journey of your first paying customer, right? And how you decided the pricing at that time?
So I think our that's an interesting story. I don't know if you have time for it. It was, I mean, during the 2011 to 14, we failed on a startup. I mean, I'll not say failure. It was huge learnings were there. We did not go into. First learning that we had from the startup was, don't build anything which customers don't need. We had built 1.5 years some product, and then afterwards we realized that no one wants this. So we said, first we'll pitch our idea to customers. If they want it, we'll build it, right? So our first customer, when we were pitching our product to multiple people, Book My Show, ESPN, Info, multiple people at that point. And thankfully, Taxi for sure was our first customer, who said, okay, we like your idea, we want to get you on board, right? And we are today very grateful to the people there, marketing team there, to give us a chance, right? What we did was, I think you can use that hack, we just made web pages and showed them this is how it works. And they agreed to it, and we had to build. Our friend had a vacation to go, but he cancelled it. Once we got the deal, we had to build the product within 2-3 days, right? And the pricing we decided was, looking at some examples, it was not any market science. The pricing still stands like that today. That is why we had to build that customer who is using more, who is using less. And over time we learnt it. Like, because of this usage, you can't go lesser than this, right? So that is how we learnt it. But I think Taxi for sure was our first customer, and it's just playing with the customer. What are they comfortable with it? I remember they paid about $600 per month at that point of time for using voyage, and then they became a very good account. And even after they were acquired by Ola, also they were still paying for the usage. So that's how our journey started.
We are running out of time, and then we'll have the last question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for the wonderful session, Yashwanth, first of all. And one question, maybe you have mentioned that you have rewritten the code for 2 to 3 times, right? Because we did the same. I face one thing because now I'm in another new startup. It's almost 2 months now. When my boss asked me set up a staging environment and write a unit test case, but I know the fact it has to evolve more, right? How do you see, when did you start production? Already it's because of the AWS cast. We already done for production thing, and we have to do staging, and also we have to do unit testing. When did you start? That's the thing. And
I think,
will you suggest?
like you said, like fixing a running car is very hard. But for me, I think as a engineering leaders, one thing I found at least in MoEngage is I want us to speak more and then educate the business counterparts saying that this is why we need this time. If you don't do this, fortunately for me, my friend is CEO is a computer science grad. He understands what I'm saying. He even gives me some ideas. But I think what I found is we have to speak a bit more and we have to be structural. I can't say that I have to do this revamp. You have to tell that by doing this revamp, tomorrow I'll save you some dollars, or tomorrow I don't have to spend 3 more hours into production or whatever. I think we should get more tactical in terms of how do we speak to our business counterparts, and they say that this is the value and I'll measure the value also. You can't say that, okay, I'll do this and then abandon this. You need to also be accountable for it. This is what I've done. This is the cost I've said. This is the cost that I've said. Go and see it. And that's where they start trusting you more. And this, if you say that I need 2 extra hours, they will give you, right? So I think it's more about explanation. There is no rule here. Again, sometimes you have to say, my friend comes to me and says that tomorrow is we have a sales pitch. You have to get the demo ready by tomorrow. We have to do it because sales is the, I would say, heart of, I would say, that is the metric where everyone cares about, right? How much dollars you're getting, how much you're losing. And if sales is not there, company is done, right? So sales driven is also okay, but that communication needs to happen, is what I think.